Saturday morning sunlight cut through the trees at Cheeseman Park in Denver, turning the grass into a patchwork of shadow and gold. James Robinson sat on a metal bench that had seen better decades, watching his daughter crouch over the sidewalk with a fistful of purple chalk, always purple, Linda's favorite color, though Emily had been too young when her mother died to remember why she gravitated toward it. Maybe grief lived in the bones that way, expressing itself in shades the heart couldn't articulate. Emily was drawing something elaborate, her tongue poking out the corner of her mouth in concentration. 5 years old and already fluent in the visual language of things she couldn't say out loud. The drawing showed a stick-figure man standing in front of what looked like a picture frame. The man had a sad face, just a downturned line, but the simplicity made it worse somehow. James leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "What are you making, Bug?" Emily didn't look up, still dragging purple across concrete. "You!" Looking at Mama's picture on the fridge. The words landed like a physical weight in James's chest. 3 years since Linda had collapsed in their kitchen. 3 years of trying to hold it together for this little girl who saw everything. And Emily still caught every moment he stopped to stare at that photo. The one where Linda was laughing at something off camera, her whole face lit up, frozen in a joy he'd never see move again. "I'm not sad, Em. I'm just remembering." Emily stood up, planted her small hands on her hips, chalk dust smeared across her brown cheek like war paint. "Auntie Angela says remembering's okay, but you gotta make new memories too." She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that shouldn't fit on a kindergartner's face. "She says you're going on a date today." "What's a date?" James rubbed the back of his neck, searching for words that wouldn't require explaining the full complexity of adult loneliness to a 5-year-old. "It's when two grown-ups get coffee and talk, see if they like each other." "Like when I have playdates?" "Sort of, yeah." "Is the lady nice?" "I don't know yet, Bug. That's what I'm going to find out." Emily considered this, then went back to her chalk, started adding details to her drawing, small purple flowers around the edges. "Okay, but if she's mean, you should come home. I don't like mean people." "Deal." The Copper Mug Cafe sat on a corner in Capitol Hill, the kind of place that served overpriced lattes to people who used words like artisanal without irony. James arrived 15 minutes early, a habit drilled into him by years of military-adjacent work culture, even though he'd never served. Punctuality meant respect. He ordered black coffee from a barista with a nose ring and too many tattoos to count, found a table by the window where he could watch the door. His phone showed one text from Angela, his older sister, who'd arranged this whole thing. "She's great, trust me, and she has a daughter too, so you'll have lots to talk about." No profile picture, no last name, just Stephanie and a time and a location, and Angela's insistence that James needed to stop living like a monk. He'd tried to argue that raising Emily alone didn't leave much bandwidth for dating, but Angela had given him that look, the one that said she loved him and also thought he was being an idiot, and he'd caved. The coffee tasted burnt. James drank it anyway, watching people pass on the sidewalk outside. Couples, families, a teenager walking 3 dogs that seemed to be walking him instead. Saturday afternoon in Denver, everyone living their lives, and James Robinson sitting in a cafe about to meet a stranger because his sister thought 3 years of grief was long enough. The door opened with a soft chime. A woman walked in, blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, wearing a navy dress that screamed boardroom, not coffee shop. She carried a toddler on her hip, a little girl with dark hair and eyes that took in the whole room like she was cataloging exits. The woman's face did something when she spotted James, a flicker of expression too fast to read, but it looked like bracing, like someone expecting a blow. James stood. The woman approached, her steps careful, measured. Up close he could see the exhaustion around her eyes, the kind that settles in after months of not sleeping right. "You're James?" Her voice came out careful, controlled, professional, like she was negotiating a contract, not starting a date. "Yeah. You're Stephanie?" "Yes." "And this is Ashley." Pause. The toddler tightened her grip on the woman's neck. "I should have mentioned her before. Most guys, if you want to leave, I completely understand." The little girl was staring at James now, one finger in her mouth, suspicious. She couldn't be more than 2 or 3. Dark eyes that reminded him of Emily at that age, that perfect blend of curiosity and caution. James gestured to the chair across from him. "I've got a 5-year-old. Emily. She's with my sister right now, probably eating her weight in goldfish crackers and watching cartoons. Angela pretends she doesn't let her watch." He caught the barista's attention, held up 2 fingers. "Sit down. You want coffee? What does Ashley drink?" Stephanie blinked, then blinked again, like she was processing information that didn't match her expectations. She lowered herself into the chair slowly, settling Ashley on her lap. The toddler immediately reached for the sugar packets on the table. "You're not leaving?" "Why would I leave?" "Because I brought a 3-year-old to a blind date. Most people consider that a deal breaker." James shook his head, flagged down the approaching barista. "Can we get a kid's apple juice? No pulp if you've got it, and whatever she wants." He nodded toward Stephanie. "Latte, please." Stephanie's voice cracked slightly on the last word. The barista left. Stephanie was still staring at him like he'd performed a magic trick. Ashley had moved on from the sugar packets to investigating the texture of the wooden table, her small hands patting it with scientific interest. "You've done this before?" Stephanie said. 3 years of single dad life. You learn or you panic, sometimes both." James watched Ashley discover a particularly interesting knot in the wood grain. Emily went through a phase where she'd only eat chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs, not regular nuggets. Had to be dinosaurs. I bought 17 boxes before she decided she hated dinosaurs. The ghost of a smile touched Stephanie's mouth. "Ashley's currently in an anti-vegetable phase. If it's green, she acts like I'm poisoning her." "Give it time. Emily ate a carrot last week. Miracles happen." The drinks arrived. James ordered a fruit cup without being asked, and when it came, he pulled out a plastic knife from the barista's tray and started cutting the grapes into quarters. Stephanie watched at him work, her expression shifting into something softer, more uncertain. "Choking hazard," James explained. "Grapes are sneaky. You cut them into quarters, not halves. Halves can still lodge." "I didn't know that." "Most people don't until they read the horror stories on parenting forums at 2 in the morning because their kid won't sleep." He pushed the bowl toward Ashley, who looked at him, then at the fruit, then grabbed a piece of banana with both hands and shoved it in her mouth. "There you go. Banana's safe." They talked, awkward at first, both of them feeling out the boundaries of acceptable first-date conversation when your date included a toddler who kept trying to eat the napkin dispenser. Stephanie apologized 3 times for Ashley grabbing things. James waved it off, produced a small toy car from his pocket that he always carried for Emily, but Ashley seemed just as interested in, and the toddler settled into quiet play. "What happened to Emily's mother?" The question came soft, tentative. Stephanie's eyes stayed on Ashley, giving James space to answer or not answer. "Heart condition nobody knew about." James's voice came out flat, automatic. He'd told this story enough times that it had worn smooth, lost its jagged edges. "She collapsed in the kitchen while Emily was in her high chair. Ambulance came. Doctors tried. She was gone before I got to the hospital. He paused. Emily was 18 months old. Doesn't remember her at all except through pictures. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. James leaned forward, met Stephanie's eyes directly. Be honest about something instead. Why'd you look so scared when you walked in here? Stephanie glanced down at Ashley, who'd abandoned the toy car in favor of trying to stack the quartered grapes into a tower. Last date I went on, the guy looked at Ashley and said he wasn't trying to raise someone else's mistake. James's jaw clenched hard enough his teeth hurt. Guy was an idiot. 3 dates before that, all of them left within 20 minutes of finding out I have a kid. One didn't even finish his coffee, just stood up and walked out mid-sentence. Then they didn't deserve either of you. James watched Ashley successfully stack 2 grape pieces before the tower collapsed. She giggled, tried again. She's a person, not a problem. Seems like people forget that. Stephanie's eyes went bright, liquid. She blinked fast, trying to hide it, but a tear escaped anyway, and she wiped it away quickly with the back of her hand. Nobody's ever just treated her normal before. They either ignore her completely, or they get weird and overly enthusiastic like she's a puppy. She's 3. She's supposed to be here. You're her mom. James kept his voice level, matter of fact. Anyone who makes you feel bad about that isn't worth your time. Ashley chose that moment to offer James a piece of grape she'd been clutching. Sticky, warm from her hand, slightly squashed. He took it solemnly, ate it while she watched, to make sure he really did. Good grape, he told her seriously. Ashley beamed, showing off tiny teeth, then went back to her architectural experiments. They stayed at the cafe for another hour. Stephanie talked about her work, careful at first, then more freely when James asked actual questions instead of just nodding politely. She ran a tech company called Vital Health, medical software that hospitals used for patient records. Started it 6 years ago with 2 other founders who'd since cashed out. The company was worth something north of $200 million now, not that you'd know it from the way she apologized when Ashley knocked over her water glass. I'm telling you this because I want you to know I'm not looking for someone to take care of me financially. Stephanie mopped up the water with napkins, her movements quick and efficient. I can take care of myself and Ashley. I don't need rescuing. Okay. That's it? Just okay? James shrugged. Stephanie, I don't care if you're worth $200 million or $200. You showed up here terrified someone would judge your kid, and you're still trying to figure out how to be vulnerable without getting hurt. That's what matters. She went very still, napkins frozen in her hands. How did you? Because I did the same thing for 2 years after Linda died. Put up walls. Told myself Emily and I were fine on our own. Pushed away anyone who tried to get close because it was safer than risking losing someone again. He finished his coffee, now cold. My sister finally sat me down and said I was teaching Emily that love ends in loss, that shutting down was the only way to survive. Asked me if that's what I wanted her to learn. What did you say? I said no. Then I cried in her bathroom for 20 minutes and agreed to this blind date. Stephanie laughed, a real laugh that transformed her whole face. God, we're a mess. Yeah, but at least we're honest about it. Ashley had fallen asleep against Stephanie's shoulder, exhausted from grape architecture and the mental effort of trusting a stranger. Stephanie stood carefully, gathering the diaper bag she'd stashed under the table. James walked them out to her car, a sensible sedan with a car seat already installed. Can I see you again? The question came out before James could second-guess it. Stephanie paused with her hand on the car door. You actually want to? Yeah, I do. And Emily would love to meet Ashley. She's been asking for a little sister since she figured out kids can have siblings. I'm not promising anything, I mean, I like you, but I have a whole company to run, and Ashley's in this phase where she doesn't sleep through the night, and I'm barely keeping my head above water most days. Stephanie, James smiled, I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm asking if you want to get lunch next Saturday. Somewhere with a playground so the girls can run around and we can talk without worrying about them knocking things over. She smiled back, tentative but real. Yeah. Okay, yes. They exchanged numbers. James watched her drive away, then walked back to his car, feeling something he hadn't felt in 3 years, hope. 1 week later, James stood at Cheeseman Park with Emily bouncing beside him like she had springs in her shoes. She'd insisted on wearing her purple jacket, even though the October day was warm enough she'd probably end up taking it off. The jacket had been Linda's, adult-sized, but Emily wore it anyway, sleeves rolled up, drowning in fabric, and memories she couldn't consciously access. Is the lady here yet? Is her daughter here? What's her name again? Ashley. That's a pretty name. Do you think she likes swings? I'm really good at swings now. I can go super high without getting scared. Bug, breathe. James scanned the parking lot. They'll be here soon. A car pulled in, the same sedan from last week. Stephanie got out first, then lifted Ashley from the car seat. The toddler was wearing overalls and tiny sneakers that lit up when she walked. Emily gasped like she'd spotted a celebrity. Dad, her shoes light up. That's so cool. Stephanie approached, Ashley on her hip, looking more awake and alert than last week. Emily didn't wait for introductions, just marched right up and announced, Hi, I'm Emily. I'm 5. Your shoes are awesome. Ashley blinked at her, processing this explosion of enthusiasm. Then, light up! She stomped one foot to demonstrate, watching the shoes flash red. That's so cool. Emily looked up at James. Can I get light-up shoes? We'll talk about it. That means no. Emily turned back to Ashley, undeterred. Do you want to see the swings? I can push you. I'm really good at pushing. I push my friend Marcus at school, and he goes super high. Ashley looked at Stephanie for permission. Stephanie nodded, set her down carefully. Ashley walked over to Emily with that toddler gait that was half waddle, half determination. And Emily took her hand like they'd been friends for years. Come on, the swings are over here. James and Stephanie followed at a distance, watching their daughters navigate the playground with Emily providing running commentary on every piece of equipment while Ashley listened with solemn attention. She's good with her, Stephanie said quietly. Emily's been asking for a sibling since her friend at preschool got a baby brother. I keep explaining that's not how it works when you're a single parent, but she's persistent. James watched Emily help Ashley climb into a baby swing, carefully checking that the straps were secure. She'd be a good big sister. Ashley doesn't have many friends. Other kids are usually too rough or too loud. She gets overwhelmed easily. Emily can be loud, but she's gentle. Lost a classroom guinea pig last year and cried for 3 days. She's got a big heart. They sat on a bench 20 feet from the swings, close enough to intervene if needed, far enough to let the girls have space. Emily pushed Ashley's swing in careful arcs, not too high, talking the whole time about school and dinosaurs and her favorite TV show that Ashley was too young to understand, but seemed interested in anyway. I run a tech company. Stephanie said it like a confession. Vital health, medical software. We're about to close a deal that'll triple our valuation. Angela mentioned you were successful. Didn't mention the specifics. I'm telling you because men get weird about it. Either they want my money or they hate that I have it. Stephanie pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. She looked younger like that, less CEO, and more just a tired woman trying to figure out if this was safe. I don't need someone to take care of me. I don't need rescuing. I need someone who sees me as a person, not a bank account or a trophy. James turned to look at her fully. Stephanie, I don't care about your company's valuation. I care that you showed up last week terrified of being judged, and you're here again anyway. That takes guts. It takes desperation." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You want to know the truth? My company's my whole life. I built it from nothing. 70-hour weeks for 6 years. Slept in my office more times than I can count. Missed every holiday, every birthday, every moment that wasn't about growth and revenue and the next funding round." She gestured toward Ashley. "And now I go home every night to a 3-year-old who calls me Mama, and I can't remember the last time another adult asked me how I'm doing. Really asked, not just polite small talk before a meeting." "How are you doing?" Stephanie's breath caught. "What? How are you doing, Stephanie?" She was quiet for a long moment, watching Ashley laugh as Emily made the swing go higher. "Tired, scared, lonely." The words came out barely above a whisper. "God, I sound pathetic." "You sound human." James stood, offered his hand. "Come on, let's go get ice cream with the girls before you remember you're supposed to be a robot CEO who doesn't have feelings." She took his hand, let him pull her up. Her fingers were cold despite the warm day. "Is that what I seem like? A robot?" "No. You seem like someone who's been strong for so long you forgot it's okay to be tired." They walked to the ice cream truck parked near the playground entrance. Emily wanted chocolate with sprinkles. Ashley pointed at vanilla with gummy bears, which Stephanie initially objected to before James quietly suggested picking battles that weren't about sugar. The girls sat on the grass, sticky-faced and happy, while James and Stephanie stood nearby with their own cones melting faster than they could eat them. "Emily's father," Stephanie started, then corrected herself. "Linda's husband. What was he like?" "I'm Linda's husband." James took a bite of mint chocolate chip. "Present tense. Death doesn't divorce you." "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "It's fine. People don't know how to talk about dead spouses." He watched Emily show Ashley how to lick ice cream in a circle to prevent dripping. "Linda is the smartest person I ever met. PhD in molecular biology. She could have worked anywhere, but she chose pediatric research because she wanted to help kids. We met at a coffee shop. She was studying. I was pretending to study, but really just watching her because I thought she was beautiful. Took me 3 weeks to work up the courage to talk to her." "What happened when you did?" She said she'd been waiting for me to stop being a coward and introduce myself. James smiled at the memory. Married 18 months later, had Emily a year after that. Linda went back to work part-time, but she loved being a mom more than anything. Used to say Emily was her greatest experiment. "She sounds wonderful." She was, still is, in the ways that matter. Emily's got her smile, her curiosity, that thing where she tilts her head when she's thinking. He turned to face Stephanie. "I'm not looking to replace Linda. Nobody could. But I'm trying to build something new while honoring what I had. I don't know if that makes sense." "It makes perfect sense." Stephanie's voice was thick. "Do you think it's possible? Building something new without erasing the past?" "I think it has to be. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? We just shut down after loss and call it loyalty?" James shook his head. "Linda would be furious if she knew I was living like that. She'd tell me I was being an idiot, that she didn't die so I could stop living too." Emily ran over, Ashley toddling behind her, holding Emily's hand for balance. "Dad, can Ashley come to our house? I want to show her my room, and my stuffed animals, and my drawing of the purple dragon." James looked at Stephanie. "You guys have plans?" "Just laundry and trying to get Ashley down for a nap she won't take." "Come over. Em's room is basically a museum of toys she's collected. Fair warning, it's aggressively purple. Ashley and I are sisters now. Emily announced this like she was declaring a scientific fact. Real sisters. She said so. Ashley nodded solemnly, ice cream on her chin. Sisters? She said so, huh? James crouched down to Emily's level. Did you ask Ashley if she wanted to be sisters, or did you just decide? I asked, and she said yes. Emily looked at Ashley for confirmation. Right? Yes? Ashley held up her ice cream cone like she was making a toast. Sisters. Stephanie covered her mouth, but the laugh escaped anyway, bright and genuine. I guess that's settled then. James's house was a modest two-story in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place with actual trees and sidewalks where kids rode bikes. They'd bought it right after Emily was born, Linda insisting they needed a yard for their daughter to play in. Now the yard had a swing set James had installed himself one weekend, slightly crooked, but functional, and the garden Linda had planned, but never finished planting. Inside, every surface held photos. Linda everywhere. In the kitchen, laughing at something off camera. In the living room, holding newborn Emily with that expression of exhausted joy new mothers wore. Their wedding, Linda in a simple white dress, James in a suit that fit better then. Above the fireplace, a professional family portrait taken 6 months before Linda died. All three of them smiling, no idea what was coming. Emily dragged Ashley upstairs immediately, their voices echoing down. Stephanie stood in the living room, turning slowly, taking in the shrine James had built without meaning to. This is Linda. He pointed to the largest photo, the one above the fireplace. That's us, the day before Emily's first birthday. Stephanie moved closer, studying the woman in the photo. Dark hair, warm eyes, a smile that made you want to smile back. She was beautiful. She was, still is. I know she's dead. I know she's not coming back. But telling Emily about her, keeping her present in our lives, that's how Linda stays alive. James picked up a smaller frame from the mantel. Linda at the beach, wind in her hair, looking at the camera like the photographer had just said something ridiculous. This was our last vacation. Emily doesn't remember it, but I tell her the stories anyway. This is my mama. Emily's voice came from the stairs. She was leading Ashley down carefully, one step at a time. She's in heaven now, with the angels. That's what Dad says. Ashley looked at the photos with enormous eyes. Then she looked at Stephanie. Where my mama? The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Stephanie froze, her face going pale. James saw it, that moment of pure panic, like she'd been asked to defuse a bomb with no training. Your mama's right here, Ashley. James pointed to Stephanie, his voice calm and steady. That's your mama? But Ashley was still looking at the photos, processing. Like Emily's mama? In heaven? No, honey. Stephanie's voice came out strangled. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm your mama, and I'm not going anywhere. Emily, oblivious to the tension, grabbed Ashley's hand again. Come on, I want to show you my unicorn nightlight. It changes colors. The girls ran back upstairs. James and Stephanie stood in the living room, surrounded by ghosts. Stephanie's hands were shaking. I just need some water. She disappeared into the kitchen before James could respond. He heard the faucet run, then silence, then the sound of someone trying very hard not to cry and failing. James stayed in the living room, giving her space. Let her have the moment without an audience. When Stephanie came back 5 minutes later, her eyes were red, but her face was composed, that CEO mask back in place. I'm sorry. Don't be. James handed her a tissue box he'd grabbed from the bathroom. Whatever you're carrying, Stephanie, when you're ready to tell me, I'll listen. But you don't have to perform for me. You don't have to pretend to have it all together. What if I don't have anything together? What if I'm barely keeping it together and one wrong question away from completely falling apart? Then you're like the rest of us. James sat down on the couch, patted the cushion next to him. Strong people aren't the ones who never break. They're the ones who break and keep going anyway. Stephanie sat, leaving a careful distance between them. Upstairs, they could hear Emily narrating a story involving princesses and dragons, while Ashley provided sound effects. The girls were fine. The adults were the ones struggling. Ashley asks about her father sometimes. Stephanie spoke to her hands, not to James. I don't know what to tell her. How do you explain to a 3-year-old that her father's not coming back? That he was never really here to begin with? You tell her the truth. Age-appropriate truth, but truth. James leaned back, exhaustion settling into his shoulders. Emily used to ask why her mama didn't come home. I told her mama got very sick and her heart stopped working, that doctors tried their best, but sometimes hearts break and nobody can fix them. She asked if my heart would break too. I told her no, I was being very careful with my heart so I could stay with her. Did that help? I don't know. She still checks on me sometimes, puts her hand on my chest to make sure it's still beating. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the girls play. The house smelled like the candle Linda used to burn, vanilla and something James could never quite identify. He'd bought 20 of the same candle after she died, hoarding them like talismans, but he was down to his last one and afraid to burn it. I should go. Stephanie stood abruptly. Ashley needs a nap, and I have work to catch up on. It's Saturday. I'm a CEO. Every day is a work day. James walked them to the door, called up the stairs for Emily to come say goodbye. She appeared with Ashley in tow, both of them looking disappointed their playdate was ending. Can Ashley come back? Emily asked. Please, we were having so much fun. We'll see, Bug. That means maybe. Emily turned to Ashley. I'll see you soon, okay? We're sisters now, so we have to see each other. Ashley hugged Emily with that fierce toddler grip that was mostly just falling forward with commitment. Sisters. James walked Stephanie and Ashley to their car. The afternoon had turned golden, October light filtering through the trees. Stephanie buckled Ashley into her car seat with practiced efficiency, then stood by the driver's door, keys in hand. Thank you, she said quietly, for today, for not running when Ashley asked about, when she said the thing about heaven. Why would I run? Because it's complicated. Because I'm complicated. Stephanie looked at him then, really looked at him, and James saw something raw and scared underneath the professional polish. Because nobody wants complicated. I've got a dead wife and a 5-year-old who checks my heartbeat to make sure I'm not going to die. We're all complicated. James took a step closer. But I like you, Stephanie. I like how you are with Ashley, how you showed up terrified last week and came back anyway. That's brave. It doesn't feel brave. It feels desperate. Sometimes they're the same thing. She smiled, small but real. Same time next week? Yeah, I'll text you. James watched them drive away, then went back inside where Emily was already drawing at the kitchen table. Purple crayon, always purple. This time she was drawing 4 stick figures holding hands. Who's that, Bug? You, me, Miss Stephanie, and Ashley. Emily added details, small circles for heads, lines for arms and legs. We're a team now. A team, huh? Yeah, like the Avengers, but less punching and more ice cream. James laughed, really laughed, for the first time in longer than he could remember. Emily looked up at him, her expression serious, beyond her years. I like them, Dad. Can we keep them? People aren't pets, Em, but yeah, I like them too. The weeks that followed developed a rhythm. Tuesdays, James brought Emily to Stephanie's house for dinner. Fridays, Stephanie brought Ashley to James's place. The girls became inseparable. Emily teaching Ashley new words, while Ashley taught Emily that not everything needed to be explained. Sometimes you could just exist. Stephanie's house was different from James's. Modern, clean lines, expensive furniture that looked uncomfortable. No photos on the walls, except one of Ashley as a baby, and a landscape painting that was probably worth more than James's car. The kitchen had every gadget imaginable, but looked barely used. "I don't cook much," Stephanie admitted the first Tuesday they came over. "Usually just order takeout or heat up frozen stuff." "That's fine. Emily eats chicken nuggets like they're a food group. These are shaped like dinosaurs." Stephanie held up the box. "She'll only eat dinosaurs?" "Not anymore. She's moved on to regular nuggets." Progress. They fell into an easy pattern. James cooked while Stephanie set the table, both of them aware they were playing house, but not saying it out loud. Emily and Ashley played in the living room, their laughter punctuating the domestic quiet. "Tell me something real," James said one Tuesday while waiting for pasta to boil. "Not CEO stuff. Real." Stephanie was slicing cucumbers, her movements precise. "I don't know how to be anything but CEO stuff." "Try." She set down the knife. "I'm scared all the time that I'm a bad mother, that I'm failing Ashley, that I'm going to mess her up because I didn't plan for her and I don't know what I'm doing." The words came out in a rush. "I read all the parenting books, follow all the Instagram accounts, but at the end of the day, I'm just guessing and hoping I don't break her." "Join the club." James stirred the pasta. "Emily asked me last week if I was going to die like her mama did. I told her no, I was being careful. But the truth is, I don't know. None of us know. We just show up and try our best and hope it's enough." "Is it enough?" "Ask me in 20 years when she's in therapy talking about her childhood." Stephanie laughed, that bright sound James was learning to crave. "You're different from most people I meet." "How so?" "You don't pretend. Everyone else in my life, they're always performing, trying to impress me or use me or get something from me, but you're just you." She picked up the knife again, resumed slicing. "It's disorienting. I'm too tired to perform. Raising a kid alone doesn't leave energy for pretending to be someone I'm not." At James's house on Fridays, the routine was different, less structured. Emily would drag Ashley upstairs to play, while James and Stephanie sat on the back porch, drinking coffee and watching the sun set over the neighborhood. Those were the conversations that went deeper, past small talk, into the real mess of their lives. "Linda used to make pancakes," James said one Friday evening. "Burned them almost every time. Emily would eat them anyway. Tell Linda they were perfect." "You must miss her." "Every day, but not the way I used to." James watched a neighbor walk their dog past his yard. "Right after she died, missing her was this huge thing that took up all the space in my chest, made it hard to breathe, but it's changed. Now it's more like she's furniture in my mind. Still there, still part of the layout, but I can move around her." "That's a good way to put it." "Does Ashley's father know about her?" The question came out before James could stop it. Stephanie went rigid, her coffee cup frozen halfway to her mouth. "No, he doesn't." "Does he want to?" "He doesn't get a choice." Her voice had turned cold, CEO mode activated. "Ashley's mine. That's all that matters." James held up his hands. "I wasn't trying to pry. I want to understand your life. That's all." "My life is complicated." "So you keep saying, but complicated doesn't mean bad." Stephanie set down her coffee, stood abruptly. "I should check on the girls." She disappeared inside. James stayed on the porch, watching darkness settle over Denver. He'd pushed too hard, asked the wrong question. The minefield of dating when everyone had history was learning which doors to knock on and which to leave closed. Stephanie came back 10 minutes later. The girls were fine, absorbed in some elaborate game involving stuffed animals and a blanket fort. She sat back down, but the easy warmth from before had evaporated. "I'm sorry," James said. "That was out of line." "No, you have a right to ask." Stephanie wrapped her arms around herself despite the mild evening. "I just don't know how to talk about it. About him, about any of it." "You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to tell me." "But you want to know." "I want to know you. And your past is part of that, but only the parts you want to share." She was quiet for a long time. Inside, they could hear Emily explaining the rules of her game to Ashley with patient authority. A car drove past. Someone's wind chimes rang in the breeze. "Ashley's father wasn't a good person," Stephanie finally said. "That's all I can tell you right now. That's all I'm ready to say." "Okay." "That's it? Just okay?" "What else is there? You said that's all you're ready to say. I'm not going to push for more." James met her eyes. "When you're ready, I'll listen, but I'm not going anywhere because you have history. We all have history. That's how time works." The tension in Stephanie's shoulders eased slightly. "How are you real?" "I'm not. I'm actually 3 kids in a trench coat." She laughed, despite herself. "Emily's rubbing off on you." "Or I'm rubbing off on her. Hard to tell who's raising who at this point." The conversation moved to safer ground after that. Work, though they both tried to avoid work. School updates about Emily's class. Funny things Ashley had said. The mundane, beautiful, boring stuff that made up actual life, not the curated highlight reel people showed the world. Later, after Stephanie and Ashley left, Emily found James sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the drawing she'd made earlier. 4 stick figures holding hands, all smiling, surrounded by purple flowers. "Are you sad, Dad?" "No, Bug. Just thinking." Emily climbed into his lap, even though she was getting too big for it, would be too big soon. "About what?" "About how lucky I am, that I have you, that I met Stephanie and Ashley." "They're nice." "Yeah, they are." "Do you love Miss Stephanie?" The question caught James off guard. He looked down at his daughter, those eyes so much like Linda's, that face still round with childhood, but sharpening into something that would someday be her own. "I don't know yet. Maybe. I like her a lot." "That's okay." Emily patted his chest, checking his heartbeat like she did. "Your heart's still working good. You can love more people. Mama wouldn't mind." "How do you know?" "Because Mama loved everybody. You said so. She wouldn't want you to be alone." James hugged his daughter tight, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and childhood innocence. "When did you get so smart?" "I was always smart. You're just noticing now." That night, after Emily was asleep, James sat on his bed, staring at the photo on his nightstand. Linda on their honeymoon, wind-blown and laughing, unaware that she only had a few years left. He picked up the frame, traced the outline of her face through the glass. "I'm trying," he whispered, "to keep living, to be there for Emily, to maybe let someone else in. I hope that's okay. I hope I'm not betraying you." The photo didn't answer. It never did. But James liked to think that somewhere, somehow, Linda approved, that she wanted him to be happy, that love didn't have a limit, didn't use itself up, could expand to include new people without erasing the old ones. His phone buzzed. Text from Stephanie. "Thank you for tonight, for being patient, for not running when I'm difficult." James typed back, "You're not difficult. You're careful." There's a difference. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Same time next week?" "Same time next week," James confirmed. He set down his phone and looked at Linda's photo one more time. "I think you'd like her," he said to the silence. "I think you'd tell me to stop being scared and just let myself feel something." The house creaked around him, settling into night. Upstairs, Emily was probably sprawled across her bed, covers kicked off, dreaming in purple. Outside, wind moved through the trees Linda had picked out when they'd first moved in, saying she wanted their daughter to grow up with green things. James turned off the light and lay down in the bed that had felt too big for 3 years. But tonight it felt different, not smaller exactly, just less empty. Like maybe there was room in his life for more than just survival. Maybe there was room for something that looked like hope. Month 2 arrived with the kind of Colorado autumn that made people forget winter existed. James woke up on a Tuesday morning to find Emily already dressed, standing by his bed, holding her backpack and a drawing she'd finished the night before. "We're gonna be late for school." James checked his phone. 6:45. School didn't start until 8:30. "Bug, we have almost 2 hours. But I want to show Miss Stephanie the picture I made of all of us at the zoo. Remember when Ashley saw the elephants and said they were big doggies?" The memory made James smile. Last weekend, all 4 of them at the Denver Zoo. Ashley's constant misidentification of animals providing entertainment that carried them through 6 hours of walking. The elephant as dog moment had been peak comedy. Stephanie laughing so hard she'd snorted, then been embarrassed, then laughed harder at her own embarrassment. "We'll see Miss Stephanie on Friday, remember?" But Friday's so far away. Emily's face crumpled with the particular devastation only a 5-year-old could achieve over time measurement. "That's 3 whole days, 2.5 days. That's still too many." James got up, ruffled his daughter's hair. "How about this? You can text her the picture. I'll help you." Emily's face lit up like someone had flipped a switch. They spent 10 minutes carefully photographing her crayon masterpiece, Emily providing detailed instructions about angles and lighting that James was pretty sure she'd absorbed from some YouTube channel Angela let her watch. The photo showed 4 stick figures, slightly more sophisticated than her earlier attempts, standing in front of crude approximations of zoo animals, purple everywhere because of course. James typed while Emily dictated, "Hi, Miss Stephanie, this is Emily. I made a picture of us at the zoo. Ashley is next to the elephants she thought were doggies. Love, Emily and Dad." Stephanie's response came while James was making breakfast, eggs scrambled the way Linda used to make them, slightly runny because Emily liked them that way, even though it meant washing more dishes. She wrote back. Emily grabbed the phone before James could stop her. "She says she loves it, and she's going to put it on her fridge at work. Dad, she has a fridge at work." "Lots of offices have fridges, Bug." "But she's putting my picture on hers. That means she really likes it." The casual intimacy of it settled into James's chest, warm and slightly terrifying. This was real now, not just coffee dates and careful conversations. This was Emily texting Stephanie unprompted. This was making space in their lives for 2 people who'd been strangers 8 weeks ago. This was building something that could break them if it ended wrong. That Friday, Stephanie showed up at James's house with Ashley and a bag of groceries neither of them had discussed. She'd called earlier asking what Emily's favorite dinner was, and now apparently she was cooking it. "You don't have to do this." James watched her unload ingredients onto his counter with the efficiency of someone executing a military operation. "I want to." Emily mentioned last week she missed homemade spaghetti like her mama used to make. "I found Linda's recipe online." James froze. "You what?" "Her recipe. She had a blog. Linda's Lab Notes. Cooking and science experiments for kids." Stephanie pulled out her phone, showed him. There it was, Linda's blog that James hadn't looked at in 3 years because it hurt too much. The header photo showed Linda in their old kitchen, mixing bowl in hand, laughing at something off camera. I hope that's okay, that I looked. How did you even find it? I Googled her name. Linda Robinson, Denver, molecular biology. It was the third result. Stephanie's voice went careful, watching his face. I wanted to know her, the woman who came before me, who made you who you are, who gave you Emily. James sat down hard in one of the kitchen chairs. His throat felt tight. Nobody's ever done that before. Done what? Tried to know Linda. Everyone just wants me to move on, forget about her, act like those 5 years didn't happen. He looked up at Stephanie. You're the first person who's treated her like she still matters. She does still matter. She's Emily's mother. She's part of your story. Stephanie set down the groceries, came to crouch in front of James's chair. I'm not trying to replace her. I'm trying to honor her. There's a difference. The girls burst in from the backyard where they'd been attempting to teach Ashley how to use the swing set, both of them grass-stained and flushed. Emily stopped short when she saw the groceries on the counter. Are you making Mama's spaghetti? I'm trying. Your dad says your mama made it with extra garlic and fresh basil. I bought both. But I've never made homemade sauce before, so you might have to help me. Emily's eyes went wide. Really? I can help cook? If your dad says it's okay. James nodded, not trusting his voice. Emily scrambled to wash her hands, chattering about how Mama used to let her stir, and how the secret was to add a tiny bit of sugar to cut the acid in the tomatoes. Ashley climbed into a chair to watch, her small hands gripping the table edge. The kitchen filled with steam and garlic smell, and Emily's running commentary on proper sauce-making technique. Stephanie followed Emily's instructions with the seriousness of someone in a board meeting, asking clarifying questions about consistency and seasoning. James leaned against the counter, watching his daughter teach his girlfriend how to make his dead wife's recipe. And something in his chest that had been locked tight for 3 years started to crack open. They ate on the back porch as the sun set, Emily declaring the sauce almost as good as Mama's, which was apparently the highest compliment available. Ashley got more sauce on her face than in her mouth, but seemed delighted by the whole experience. Stephanie kept catching James's eye across the table, checking if this was okay, if she'd crossed a line. He smiled every time, a silent reassurance that she'd done something right. After dinner, after the girls were in bed, following an elaborate toothbrushing negotiation that Ashley won by sheer force of stubborn will, James and Stephanie sat on the porch in the dark. The neighborhood had gone quiet, except for distant traffic and someone's wind chimes. "Thank you," James's voice came out rougher than he intended, "for tonight, for the spaghetti, for not trying to erase Linda." "Why would I erase her? She's everywhere in this house, in Emily's smile and your stories, and the way you burned candles because she used to love them." Stephanie pulled her knees up to her chest. "I'd rather know her than compete with a ghost. Most people can't handle that. The dead wife thing. They want me to pack up her photos, stop talking about her, pretend those years didn't exist." "Then they don't deserve you." Stephanie turned to look at him in the dim light from the kitchen window. "Love doesn't end when someone dies. It just changes shape, becomes memory instead of presence. But it's still real." James reached over, took her hand. Her fingers were cold, despite the mild evening. "Can I ask you something?" "Depends what it is." "Ashley, her father. You said he wasn't a good person. But is he dangerous? Is that why you won't talk about him?" Stephanie pulled her hand back, wrapped her arms around herself. The walls went up so fast, James could practically hear them slam into place. "I can't talk about this." "Can't or won't?" "Both. Neither. James, please don't push this." "I'm not trying to push. I just want to understand. If there's something I should know, something that could affect you or Ashley, there's nothing to know. He's not in our lives. He never was. That's all that matters. But her voice shook when she said it, and James knew a lie when he heard one, even if it was dressed up as truth. He let it go, though, because pushing would only make her retreat further, and he'd learned that Stephanie's armor went on in layers, had to be removed the same way. They sat in uncomfortable silence until Stephanie checked her phone and announced she should get Ashley home. The goodbye at the door felt strained, careful, both of them aware they'd hit a wall, but not sure how to get past it. That night, James lay in bed thinking about the things people didn't say, the gaps in Stephanie's story that she filled with vague statements and subject changes, Ashley's father, who wasn't a good person, but apparently wasn't dangerous enough to worry about. The way Stephanie's whole body went tense when anyone asked direct questions about Ashley's birth or early years. His phone buzzed. Text from Stephanie. "I'm sorry for shutting down. I'm not good at vulnerability. Working on it." James typed back, "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. I keep waiting for you to run, for this to be too complicated, for you to realize I'm more trouble than I'm worth." James stared at that message for a long minute before responding. "Stephanie, I watched my wife die in a hospital while our baby was at home with a sitter who didn't know how to explain where mommy went. I've done complicated. This isn't that." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Can I call you?" Her voice when he answered sounded small, young, nothing like the CEO who ran board meetings and closed multi-million-dollar deals. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of this. Of us. Of letting you get close and then having everything fall apart." She took a shaky breath. "Everyone I've ever let in has left. Either they couldn't handle my life, or they wanted to use me, or they just got tired of how much work I am. And I keep waiting for you to do the same thing. I'm not them. I know. That's what scares me. Because if you leave, it won't be because you're shallow or greedy or bored. It'll be because I'm fundamentally unlovable. And I don't know if I can survive that." James sat up in bed, phone pressed to his ear. "Stephanie, listen to me. You're not unlovable. You're scared and defensive, and you've built walls so high I need climbing gear to get over them. But that doesn't make you unlovable. That makes you human. You don't know everything about me. So tell me, I'm right here. Tell me the things you're afraid will make me run." Silence stretched so long, James thought she'd hung up. Then, "Not yet. I'm not ready yet, but soon. I promise." "Okay, when you're ready, I'm here." They talked for another hour about nothing and everything. Ashley's new obsession with counting to 10 in Spanish, Emily's upcoming kindergarten play, where she'd been cast as tree number 3 and was treating it with the seriousness of a Broadway debut. The mundane, beautiful, ordinary stuff that built relationships brick by boring brick. When they finally hung up, James felt that crack in his chest widen a little more. This woman with her secrets and her fear and her fierce protection of her daughter. This woman who Googled his dead wife to honor her memory instead of compete with it. This woman who was clearly carrying something heavy, but still showed up, still tried, still let herself hope, even when hope felt dangerous. He was falling in love with her, had probably already fallen, and that terrified him almost as much as losing Linda had. The following Tuesday, James got a call from Emily's school. She'd thrown up in class, probably just a stomach bug, but they needed him to pick her up. He left work early, swung by the school to collect his pale-faced daughter, who insisted she felt fine now, except she'd thrown up twice more before they made it home. James got her settled on the couch with crackers and ginger ale, called his sister to cancel their plans, resigned himself to a night of potential vomit duty. Then his phone rang. Stephanie. Hey, Emily's not feeling well, so we'll have to reschedule. I'm coming over. You don't have to do that. It's probably just a bug. I'm coming over. Ashley and I will bring soup, the good kind from that deli you like. Stephanie. James, I'm not asking permission. We're coming over. You take care of Emily. I'll take care of you. She hung up before he could argue. 30 minutes later, she was at his door with Ashley on her hip, a bag of takeout containers in her free hand, and a determination in her eyes that told James arguing would be pointless. Ashley went straight to Emily on the couch, patted her sister's arm with gentle concern. Sick? Emily nodded miserably. My tummy hurts. Poor him. Ashley climbed up carefully, settled next to her without being asked to be careful. I stay. Stephanie took over the kitchen without asking, heating soup, making tea, organizing medicine and thermometers like she'd done this 1,000 times. James watched her move through his space with easy confidence, and something about it made his throat tight. You don't have to do this. I want to. This is what people do. They show up. They help. She pressed a mug of tea into his hands. When's the last time someone took care of you? James couldn't remember. Angela helped with Emily, but that was different. That was family obligation. This was choice. This was Stephanie choosing to walk into potential illness, choosing to spend her evening in someone else's chaos, choosing him. Emily threw up again around 7. James was cleaning her up when he heard a crash from downstairs, then Ashley's wail. He got Emily settled and ran down to find Stephanie, holding Ashley, who'd apparently tripped and hit her head on the coffee table. Small cut above her eyebrow, already swelling. Is she okay? James was already grabbing ice from the freezer. I think so. Head wounds bleed a lot, but it's not deep. Stephanie's voice was shaking, though, her hands trembling as she held Ashley. I'm sorry. I should have been watching her closer. Hey, no. Kids trip. Happens all the time. James pressed the ice wrapped in a towel to Ashley's forehead. The toddler was crying, but not screaming. A good sign. You're okay, sweetheart. Just a little bump. They spent the next 20 minutes getting Ashley calmed down, checking for signs of concussion, arguing about whether they needed to go to the ER. Ashley fell asleep in Stephanie's arms, still hiccuping from tears. Emily was dozing on the couch. The house smelled like soup and disinfectant, and the particular chaos of sick kids. Stephanie looked at James across the wreckage of their evening. This is my life now, isn't it? This is what I signed up for. Pretty much. Welcome to parenthood. It's mostly bodily fluids and panic. I wouldn't trade it for anything. The simplicity of that statement, the honesty of it, hit James harder than it should have. Here was this woman who ran a company worth hundreds of millions, who could be anywhere doing anything, choosing to sit in his living room holding a toddler with a bump on her head while another kid slept off a stomach bug, choosing the mess, choosing them. I love you. The words came out before James could stop them. Stephanie's head snapped up, eyes wide. What? I love you. I'm in love with you. I know it's only been 2 months, and that's fast, and maybe I shouldn't say it yet, but I'm tired of pretending I don't feel it. James set down the ice pack. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. Stephanie's face did something complicated. Relief and terror, and something that might have been joy, all fighting for space. James! Ashley stirred in her arms, mumbled something in her sleep. The moment fractured. Stephanie looked down at her daughter, then back at James. I need to get her home. Put her in her own bed. Okay? That doesn't mean I'm not saying I don't feel... She stopped, started again. I need time. To process. To think. Can you give me that? Take all the time you need. He walked them to the door, helped buckle Ashley into her car seat while Stephanie avoided looking at him directly. The goodbye was awkward, full of things neither of them were saying. James watched her drive away and wondered if he'd just ruined everything by being honest. Emily woke up as he was coming back inside. "Did Miss Stephanie leave?" "Yeah, Bug. She had to get Ashley home." "But she's coming back, right? She's not leaving?" "I don't know." Emily's face crumpled. "Did you have a fight?" "No. I just told her something true, and now she needs time to think about it." "What did you tell her?" "That I love her." Emily considered this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court justice weighing evidence. "Do you?" "Yeah, I do." "Then she'll come back. People who love each other come back. That's how love works." James pulled his daughter into a hug, breathing in the smell of sick kid and hope. "When did you get so smart about love?" "I'm 5. I know everything." 2 days passed with no word from Stephanie. James checked his phone obsessively, typed and deleted a dozen messages, finally forced himself to leave it alone. If she needed space, he'd give her space, even if the waiting felt like slowly pulling off a Band-Aid. On the 3rd day, late at night, his phone rang. Stephanie's name on the screen made his heart jump. "Hey, I need to see you. Can you come over now?" Her voice sounded wrong, tight and scared in a way he'd never heard before. "What's wrong? Is Ashley okay?" "She's fine. She's asleep. I need to see you. Please." "I'll be there in 20 minutes." James called Angela, woke her up, begged her to come stay with Emily. She arrived bleary-eyed and asking questions he didn't have answers to. He drove to Stephanie's house, breaking probably 6 traffic laws, pulled into her driveway to find her waiting on the front porch. She looked wrecked, hair loose and messy, no makeup, wearing sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt. Nothing like the polished CEO he'd met 2 months ago. She stood when his car pulled up, wrapped her arms around herself. "I'm sorry for calling so late. I just couldn't wait until morning." "What happened?" "Come inside. I need to show you something." Stephanie's house was dark, except for the kitchen light. She led him there, poured them both whiskey, neither of them drank, then pulled out her phone, pulled up an email, handed it to James without explanation. The email was from someone named Christopher Moore. The subject line read, "We need to talk about Ashley." James started reading, and his blood went cold. Christopher claimed to have been in a relationship with Stephanie's sister, claimed to know Ashley wasn't Stephanie's biological daughter, threatened to expose the lie unless Stephanie met certain demands regarding her company. "When did you get this?" 3 hours ago. He's been quiet for 3 years. I hoped he'd forgotten about us." Stephanie's hands were shaking. "But he knows. He knows everything." "Stephanie, what is he talking about? Ashley's not your biological daughter." The silence that followed felt like falling. Stephanie closed her eyes, took a breath so deep it shook her whole body, and started talking. "My sister's name was Melissa. She was younger than me by 4 years. Beautiful, brilliant, kind, everything I wasn't. She married this guy David right out of college. They were so happy it hurt to watch sometimes." Stephanie's voice went flat, detached. "David died in a car accident 3 years ago. Drunk driver. Melissa was pregnant, didn't know yet, found out 2 weeks after the funeral." James set down the phone, giving her his full attention. The pregnancy was supposed to be simple. She was healthy. Everything looked normal. But during delivery, there were complications. She started hemorrhaging. They couldn't stop the bleeding. Stephanie's breath hitched. "She died in the delivery room. I was holding her hand. She made me promise to take Ashley. Made me swear I wouldn't let David's parents get custody because they were horrible people who would have raised Ashley in some religious compound situation. Her last words were, 'Promise me she'll know she's loved.'" "So you took her?" I told everyone she was mine. Let people assume I'd gotten pregnant, and the father wasn't in the picture. Let them judge me for being a single mom. Better they think I'm irresponsible than pity Ashley for being an orphan. Stephanie finally looked at him. I've been lying to everyone for 3 years. To my board, to the press, to you. James processed this, all the pieces clicking into place. Ashley asking about heaven. Stephanie's panic around questions about Ashley's father. The careful way she avoided talking about Ashley's birth or early years. Why didn't you tell me? Because men leave when things get complicated. Because I've built my entire life around this lie, and if it comes out now, everything crashes. My company, my reputation, my relationship with Ashley. Her voice broke. Because I was scared you'd see me differently, that you'd leave like everyone else. What does Christopher want? Money, equity in my company. He was Melissa's boyfriend before she met David. Thinks that gives him some kind of claim. Stephanie pulled up another email, showed James a list of demands that made his jaw clench. He's threatening to go public, tell every news outlet that CEO Stephanie Clark built her brand on a dead sister's tragedy, that I'm a fraud. But you adopted Ashley legally, right? You have paperwork? Yes, I'm her legal mother in every way that matters, but the optics are bad. The board won't care about legality. They'll care about the lie, about me using single motherhood as a sympathy card to build goodwill. She laughed, bitter and broken. I'm going to lose everything. James stood, started pacing. His mind was racing through options, consequences, worst-case scenarios. Have you talked to a lawyer? Not yet. I just got the email tonight. I panicked, called you. Okay. First thing tomorrow we get you a lawyer. Second, we figure out what kind of leverage this Christopher guy actually has. Third, why are you helping me? Stephanie's voice cracked completely. I lied to you for 2 months. I'm a fraud. Why aren't you running? James stopped pacing, turned to face her fully. You didn't lie about loving Ashley. You didn't lie about being scared. You didn't lie about anything that actually matters. You just didn't tell me the specific circumstances of how Ashley came into your life. That's not fraud. That's protection. It's still a lie. No, it's an omission. There's a difference. He moved closer, close enough to see the tears tracking down her face. You took a newborn baby who'd just lost both parents. You gave up your freedom, your privacy, your reputation. You let people call you irresponsible and careless and every other judgment they could think of. Also, Ashley would never feel like a burden or a tragedy. That's not fraud. That's love. But I should have told you sooner. Yeah, probably. But I understand why you didn't. James reached out, wiped a tear from her cheek. I told you I love you 3 days ago. Did you think that came with conditions? That I'd only love you if you were perfect and uncomplicated and never made mistakes? Most people have conditions. I'm not most people. I'm a widower raising a 5-year-old who thinks purple is the only color that matters. I've done complicated. This doesn't scare me. Stephanie crumpled, started crying in earnest. James pulled her into his arms and let her break apart, let her shake and sob and release whatever she'd been holding for 3 years. They stood in her kitchen under fluorescent lights that made everything look harsh and real, holding each other while the weight of secrets finally came tumbling out. When she could breathe again, when the crying had slowed to hiccups, Stephanie pulled back enough to look at him. I don't deserve you. That's not how love works. It's not about deserving. It's about choosing. James brushed hair out of her face. I choose you. Complicated, scared, secretive you. I choose both of you. I love you too. The words came out barely above a whisper. I was going to say it back that night, but I panicked. I'm sorry. Say it again. I love you. Look at me when you say it. She met his eyes, hers still red from crying. I love you, James Robinson. I love how you honor Linda's memory. I love how patient you are with Emily. I love that you showed up tonight without asking questions. I love you, and it terrifies me because losing you would break me. You're not going to lose me. You don't know that. Christopher could destroy everything, could take Ashley from me. Then we'll fight him, together. James's voice went hard with determination. You're not alone anymore, Stephanie. You have me. We're going to figure this out. They spent the next 2 hours going through Christopher's emails, documenting everything, planning their response. James called a lawyer friend who owed him a favor, set up a meeting for the next morning. Stephanie made coffee. They didn't drink, and paced her kitchen, while James took notes and asked questions, and slowly built a strategy. Around 3 in the morning, Ashley wandered in, rubbing her eyes. "Mama, why you awake?" Stephanie scooped her up immediately. "Just talking with Mr. James, baby. What are you doing up?" "Had a dream. Bad one." "What about?" "You went away, like Emily's mama, to heaven." Stephanie's face crumpled, but she held it together. "I'm not going anywhere. I promise. I'm right here. Forever. Forever and ever." Ashley seemed satisfied with this, nestled into her mother's shoulder. James watched them. This woman who'd given up everything for her sister's child. This child who'd been loved so fiercely she'd never known she was anything but wanted. And he understood now why Stephanie had lied, why she'd built walls, why she protected Ashley with everything she had. Because Ashley was all she had left of Melissa, and losing Ashley would mean losing her sister all over again. James drove home as the sun was coming up, exhausted but clear-headed. Angela was asleep on his couch, Emily curled up next to her. He covered them both with a blanket, went upstairs, and didn't sleep because his mind was too busy planning. Christopher Moore wanted a fight. He was going to get one, but not the kind he was expecting. The lawyer's office occupied the 14th floor of a glass building downtown, the kind of place where every surface reflected money and consequence. James sat next to Stephanie in chairs designed for uncomfortable waiting, while Thomas Garcia reviewed the emails Christopher had sent. The lawyer was mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, reading glasses that made him look perpetually skeptical of whatever he was examining. "This is textbook extortion." Thomas set down his tablet. "He's threatening to damage your reputation unless you meet financial demands. That's illegal, regardless of whether the underlying information is true." "But the information is true." Stephanie's voice came out hollow. "I did lie about being Ashley's biological mother. You legally adopted your niece after her mother died in childbirth. That's not a lie. That's family." Thomas pulled up something on his screen. "I pulled the adoption records this morning. Everything was filed correctly. You disclosed to the court that you were Ashley's maternal aunt. The judge approved the adoption knowing the full circumstances. There's no fraud here. But my board doesn't know. The press doesn't know. I built my company's brand on being a single mother balancing career and motherhood. If it comes out that I'm not actually... You are actually a single mother balancing career and motherhood." James cut in, his patience for Stephanie's self-flagellation wearing thin. "Ashley is your daughter. You've been raising her alone for 3 years. The fact that your sister carried her doesn't change any of that." Thomas nodded. "James is right. From a legal standpoint, you're in the clear. From a PR standpoint, we can manage this. The real question is what you want to do about Christopher Moore." "I want him to disappear." Stephanie's hands clenched in her lap. "I want him to never contact me again, to never come near Ashley. Then we send a cease and desist. Make it clear that any further contact will result in legal action. Most importantly, we document everything he's sent so far in case we need to pursue charges." Thomas started typing. "I'll have something drafted by end of day. In the meantime, don't respond to any of his communications. Don't engage at all." They left the office with a plan, but no peace. Stephanie was silent in the elevator, silent walking to the parking garage, silent until they were in James's car and the doors closed shut out the world. "What if the board fires me it anyway? What if they decide I'm too much of a liability?" "Then you start a new company. You're smart enough to build Vital Health once. You can do it again." James started the engine, but didn't put the car in gear. "But I don't think it'll come to that. You're not the villain here, Stephanie. Christopher is." Public opinion doesn't always care about villains and heroes. They care about narratives, and the narrative of a CEO who lied about her child to gain sympathy, that's clickbait gold. James had no argument for that. She was right. Truth mattered less than story, and stories were written by whoever got to the audience first. 3 days later, Christopher made his next move. He filed a petition for custody of Ashley in Denver Family Court, claiming he had significant emotional connection to the child through his prior relationship with Melissa. The legal filing hit the court system's public records, and within hours a local blogger had picked it up. By evening, it was trending on Twitter. CEO Stephanie Clark faces custody battle over daughter she claimed was her own. Sources say child is actually her late sister's. Full story developing. Stephanie called James from her office, her voice shaking so badly he could barely understand her. "It's everywhere. My phone won't stop. The board wants an emergency meeting. My assistant is crying. James, I don't know what to do." "Come to my house. Bring Ashley. We'll figure it out." "I can't just leave. I have to." "Stephanie, listen to me. Right now, the only thing that matters is Ashley. Come here, please." She showed up 40 minutes later, Ashley confused and clingy, Stephanie looking like she hadn't slept in days. Emily immediately took Ashley upstairs, sensing the adults needed space. James sat Stephanie down on his couch and handed her water she didn't drink. "The board meeting is tomorrow. They're talking about asking me to step down as CEO. Temporarily, they said, but we both know temporary means permanent." She stared at her phone like it was a live grenade. "My company, the thing I built from nothing, they're going to take it away because I loved my sister's baby." "What does Thomas say?" "That we have a strong case, that Christopher has no legal standing, that the adoption is ironclad. But he also said custody battles are unpredictable, that judges have wide discretion, that if Christopher can prove I'm unfit somehow, if he can show I lied about material facts." "You're not unfit. You're terrified. There's a difference." James took her phone, set it face down on the coffee table. "And you didn't lie about material facts. You told the adoption court the truth. What you told the press afterward is irrelevant to your fitness as a parent. Tell that to the internet." Stephanie's laugh came out broken. "They're calling me a fraud, a liar, saying I exploited my sister's death for career advancement. There's a hashtag, multiple hashtags. I'm trending for all the wrong reasons." From upstairs, they could hear Emily reading to Ashley, her 5-year-old voice careful and serious, as she narrated a picture book about a lost puppy finding its way home. The normalcy of it, the pure childhood innocence of that sound, stood in sharp contrast to the adult mess happening below. "I should go home, deal with this, prepare for tomorrow. Stay." The word came out more urgent than James intended. "Stay here tonight. Both of you. Emily would love it, and you shouldn't be alone right now. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Actually, I'm insisting. James stood, headed toward the kitchen. I'll make dinner. You sit there and breathe. That's your only job right now. Just breathe. He made spaghetti, Linda's recipe that Stephanie had learned weeks ago, and the familiarity of it seemed to calm her slightly. They ate mostly in silence, the girls chattering enough to fill the quiet spaces. After dinner, Emily insisted on a movie, picked something animated with princesses that Ashley loved. The girls curled up together on the couch while James and Stephanie cleaned the kitchen. I keep thinking about Melissa. Stephanie's hands stilled in the soapy water, about her last moments. She was so scared, bleeding out, and knowing she was dying, and all she cared about was Ashley, making sure I'd take care of her, making sure she'd be loved. You kept that promise. But what if I lose her? What if Christopher wins somehow, and I have to watch them take her away? That would kill me, James, actually kill me. I wouldn't survive it. James took the dish from her hands, put it aside, turned her to face him. We're not going to lose. We're going to fight this with everything we have. You, me, Thomas, everyone who loves Ashley. Christopher might have started this battle, but we're going to finish it. How are you so certain? Because the alternative is unacceptable. And when the alternative is unacceptable, you find a way to win. That night, after the girls were asleep, Ashley in Emily's bed and Emily in a sleeping bag on the floor because she insisted on being close to her sister, James and Stephanie sat on the back porch under stars that didn't care about custody battles or internet outrage. The October night had turned cold, promising the winter that was coming, whether anyone was ready or not. Tell me about Melissa. James handed Stephanie a blanket. Not the death part, the life part. She was 4 years younger, always smiling, always seeing the good in people, even when they didn't deserve it. Stephanie wrapped the blanket around herself. I was the serious one, the one who studied too much and didn't know how to have fun. Melissa was the one everyone loved. She made friends everywhere, lit up rooms just by walking in. You miss her every day. Sometimes I look at Ashley and I see Melissa so clearly it hurts. The way she laughs, how she tilts her head when she's curious, her stubbornness. Stephanie's voice went soft. I'm terrified I'm not enough, that I can't give Ashley everything Melissa would have given her. Melissa chose you. That has to mean something. Or it means she was dying and desperate, and I was the only option. No. James turned to face her fully. It means she trusted you with the most important thing in her life. She could have named David's parents, could have let the state decide. But she chose you. That wasn't desperation, that was love. Stephanie started crying again, the kind of tears that had been building for years and finally found permission to fall. James held her while she shook, while she grieved for her sister and her company and the reputation she'd built that was crumbling in real time. He didn't try to fix it or minimize it, just held her and let the storm pass through. The emergency board meeting happened at 10 the next morning. Stephanie went alone, despite James offering to come. This was her fight, she said. Her company. She needed to face it herself. James took the day off work, kept Emily home from school, took both girls to the park to burn off the anxiety that had settled into his chest. His phone rang at 11:30. Stephanie's name on the screen made his stomach drop. How bad is it? They asked me to step down as CEO, effective immediately. Interim CEO takes over today. I'm still on the board, but I have no operational control. Her voice sounded dead, empty. 10 years. I built that company for 10 years, and they took it away in 45 minutes. I'm so sorry. The worst part? I would have done the same thing if I were them. From a business perspective, it's the right call. I'm radioactive right now. Every article about the company mentions the custody battle. Stock dropped 8% this morning. I'm hurting the thing I built by existing in it. Where are you now? Sitting in my car in the parking garage. I can't go home. Can't face Ashley. Can't explain why Mama lost her job because she loved her too much. Come to the park. We're at Cheeseman. The girls are on the swings. Come here. I don't want them to see me like this. Then sit in your car and cry. Or come here and let people who love you help you carry this. Your choice. She showed up 20 minutes later, sunglasses hiding red eyes, moving like someone who'd been in a car accident and was still processing the damage. Ashley saw her first, squealed Mama, and ran over with Emily close behind. Stephanie crouched down, pulled both girls into a hug that looked like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Why aren't you at work, Mama? I had to leave early today, baby. Wanted to spend time with you instead. Ashley seemed satisfied with this answer, grabbed Stephanie's hand, and dragged her toward the swings, demanding to be pushed higher. Emily looked at James with old eyes in a young face. Miss Stephanie's sad. Yeah, Bug, she is. Because of the bad man, the one who's trying to take Ashley? James froze. How do you know about that? I heard you and Angela talking when you thought I was asleep. Emily crossed her arms. I'm not a baby, Dad. I know things. Yeah, you do. James pulled her close. Miss Stephanie's sad because some people are being mean to her, but we're going to help her, okay? We're going to make sure she and Ashley stay together. Good, because Ashley's my sister, and nobody takes my sister. The certainty in Emily's voice, the absolute conviction that this was solvable because it had to be, reminded James why kids made better philosophers than adults. They hadn't learned yet that wanting something badly enough didn't guarantee you got it. The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. Thomas filed motions, gathered evidence, prepared character witnesses. James found himself spending more time at Stephanie's house than his own, helping with Ashley, while Stephanie dealt with the legal avalanche and the ongoing media circus. The girls adapted with the resilience of childhood, treating the whole thing like an extended sleepover that happened to involve a lot of serious adult conversations they weren't supposed to hear. 1 week before the hearing, James was putting Ashley to bed while Stephanie met with Thomas to review testimony. He read her the story about the lost puppy, the same one Emily had read weeks ago. Ashley was half asleep when she suddenly grabbed his hand. Mr. James, if the bad man takes me away, will you take care of Mama? She gets sad a lot. She needs someone. The question punched through James's chest. Nobody's taking you anywhere, sweetheart. You're staying right here with your Mama. But if they do, if I have to go, promise you'll stay with Mama. Promise you won't be all alone. I promise, but it's not going to come to that. How do you know? Because I won't let it. James brushed hair off her forehead. You're Mama's whole world, and she's part of mine now. I protect the people I love. Ashley seemed to accept this, closed her eyes and drifted off, still holding his hand. James sat there in the dark of her bedroom, surrounded by nightlights and stuffed animals, and made silent promises to a sleeping 3-year-old that he had no power to keep but refused to break anyway. Stephanie found him there 20 minutes later. Thomas left, said we're as prepared as we can be. She sat on the edge of Ashley's bed. I'm terrified. I know. What if we lose? What if the judge decides Christopher has a legitimate claim? What if they take her and I never... Her voice broke completely. Then we appeal, and we keep fighting, but we're not going to lose. James stood, pulled her up carefully to avoid waking Ashley. Come here, I want to show you something. He led her downstairs to the kitchen table where he'd spread out every photo of Ashley that Stephanie had ever shared with him. Birthday parties, first steps, covered in spaghetti sauce, asleep on Stephanie's shoulder, beach trips and zoo visits and ordinary Tuesday evenings. 3 years of motherhood documented in pixels and memory. This is what a judge is going to see. Not Christopher's claim that he dated Melissa 4 years ago, not internet outrage about corporate ethics. This, a mother who showed up, who loved her daughter through every single day, who gave up privacy and reputation and now her career, all for Ashley. Stephanie picked up one of the photos, Ashley's first birthday, cake smashed all over her face, while Stephanie laughed in the background. I remember this day. I'd been CEO for 6 months, had back-to-back meetings, but I left early to throw her a party, even though she was too young to remember, because Melissa would have wanted her to have a party. That's what mothers do. They show up even when it's hard, even when nobody's watching, even when the world is calling them frauds and liars. James gathered the photos carefully. You're not fighting for custody, Stephanie. You already have that. You're just defending what's already yours. The night before the hearing, James couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about courtrooms and judges and all the ways the system could fail good people. His phone buzzed. Text from Stephanie. Are you awake? Can't sleep, he typed back. Me neither. Can I call? Her voice, when he answered, sounded young and scared. I keep having this nightmare where they call Ashley's name and she walks away with Christopher and I can't move, can't scream, just have to watch her go. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. Judges are human. They make mistakes. What if tomorrow is a mistake? Then we fix it, appeal it, fight it. But I don't think it will be. James sat up, phone pressed to his ear. You want to know what I think is going to happen tomorrow? I think you're going to walk into that courtroom and tell the truth. About Melissa, about Ashley, about why you made the choices you made. And the judge is going to see what I see. A woman who loved her sister's baby more than her own comfort, who sacrificed everything to keep a deathbed promise. That's not a fraud. That's a hero. I don't feel like a hero. Heroes never do. That's how you know they're real. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, I love you. I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you and Emily and this life we're building, even though it's terrifying. You make me believe things might actually be okay. They will be okay. Tomorrow, we prove it. The Denver Family Court building was smaller than James expected, more municipal office than Temple of Justice. They arrived 30 minutes early, Stephanie in a navy suit that armor-plated her fear, Thomas carrying a briefcase full of documentation. Christopher was already there, sitting with his lawyer, looking confident in a way that made James's hands clench. The courtroom was barely bigger than a conference room. Judge Anderson presiding, a woman in her 60s with gray hair and an expression that gave nothing away. Thomas had warned them she was fair but unpredictable, a wild card that could swing either way. Christopher's lawyer went first, painted a picture of Stephanie as a manipulative executive who'd exploited her sister's death for professional gain. Claimed Christopher had maintained emotional connection to Melissa's memory, therefore had legitimate interest in raising her child. Argued that Stephanie's recent job loss and public scandal made her an unstable parental figure. Every word felt like a knife. Stephanie sat perfectly still next to James, her hand gripping his so hard he lost feeling in his fingers. He didn't pull away. Thomas's turn. He methodically dismantled Christopher's claims, pointed out that Christopher had no biological connection to Ashley, had never met her, had never provided any support, financial or otherwise, that his relationship with Melissa ended years before David entered the picture, that his sudden interest in custody coincided suspiciously with Stephanie's company valuation becoming public knowledge. Then Thomas called Stephanie to testify. She walked to the witness stand like someone walking to an execution. Took the oath with a steady voice James knew cost her everything to maintain. Thomas started with easy questions. When did you adopt Ashley? What were the circumstances? Why did you choose not to publicize the adoption details? My sister Melissa died giving birth to Ashley. Her last words were asking me to raise her daughter, to make sure Ashley knew she was loved. Stephanie's voice didn't waver. I took custody immediately, filed for adoption within the month, was approved 6 months later. Everything was legal and proper and honest with the court, but not with the public. No, I let people assume Ashley was my biological daughter. I did this to protect her, so she wouldn't grow up being defined by tragedy, wouldn't be the orphan baby everyone pitied, wouldn't have to explain her origin story to every new person she met. Some would say you did it to benefit your career, that the single mother narrative helped your public image. Some would be wrong. Stephanie's eyes flashed. I would have been CEO with or without Ashley. My work speaks for itself, but raising her alone did teach me things that made me better at my job: patience, multitasking, the ability to function on no sleep. If those lessons helped my career, fine, but I didn't choose Ashley to pad my resume. I chose her because my sister was dying in my arms, and I promised. Thomas nodded. No further questions. Christopher's lawyer stood for cross-examination, tried to rattle Stephanie with questions about her job loss, her reputation, whether Ashley would be better off in a stable two-parent household. Stephanie answered each one with increasing confidence, her fear transforming into something harder. Ashley has stability. She has me. She has a man who loves her like his own daughter. She has a sister who would do anything for her. That's family, not biology, not convenience, choice. Then Thomas called James. He hadn't expected this, hadn't prepared, but he stood anyway, walked to the witness stand with his heart trying to climb out of his throat, took the oath, met the judge's eyes. Mr. Robinson, how long have you known the defendant? 3 months. We met through a blind date. She brought Ashley. I brought my daughter, Emily. And what's your relationship with Ashley? She's important to me. She's Emily's sister. They decided that on their own within 5 minutes of meeting. Kids don't see biology. They see connection. And Ashley connected with Emily immediately. James looked at Stephanie. With both of us. Tell me about Stephanie as a mother. She's terrified she's not good enough, terrified she's going to fail Ashley somehow, and that terror drives her to be better, to show up even when she's exhausted, to put Ashley first even when it costs her everything. James's voice strengthened. I was married before. My wife Linda died 3 years ago. Heart condition. Left me with a 1-year-old to raise alone. I know what good parenting looks like. Stephanie is a good parent. She's a great parent. Ashley is loved in ways most kids never experience. Christopher's lawyer stood. Mr. Robinson, you've known Ms. Clark for 3 months. Hardly enough time to judge her parenting over 3 years. I've known her long enough to watch her make decisions, seen her choose Ashley over her career, over her reputation, over everything else. That's not 3 months of observation. That's understanding who someone is at their core. Or it's a man blinded by romantic feelings defending his girlfriend. I'm defending Ashley's mother, the woman who's been there for every fever and nightmare and scraped knee. The woman who quit her job rather than let this fight hurt the company she built. That's not romance. That's evidence. The judge held up a hand. Mr. Robinson, thank you. You may step down. James walked back to his seat. Stephanie's eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. Not yet. Not in front of these people who wanted to see her break. Closing arguments. Thomas summarized everything: the legal adoption, Stephanie's sacrifice. Ashley's well-being, Christopher's lack of standing. Then Christopher's lawyer stood and tried one more time to paint Stephanie as unfit. Judge Anderson listened to all of it with that unreadable expression. Then she looked at her notes, looked at Stephanie, looked at Christopher. The silence stretched until James thought he'd scream from the tension. "I've reviewed the adoption records, interviewed the social worker who handled the case, considered all testimony presented today." Judge Anderson's voice cut through the courtroom like a blade. "Mr. Moore, your petition for custody is denied. You have demonstrated no legal standing, no biological connection, and no compelling evidence that Miss Clark is unfit to parent Ashley. Your relationship with the child's biological mother ended years before Ashley's birth and does not constitute grounds for custody transfer." Christopher started to stand. His lawyer pulled him back down. "Furthermore, I'm troubled by the timing of this petition. It appears less motivated by concern for the child's welfare and more by desire to leverage Ms. Clark's recent professional difficulties." The judge's expression hardened. "I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office to investigate potential extortion charges based on communications that were submitted as evidence." Christopher's face went pale. His lawyer started whispering urgently, "Ms. Clark? Custody of Ashley Monroe. Clark remains with you. This case is closed." Judge Anderson's gavel came down with finality that echoed through the small courtroom. Stephanie made a sound between a sob and a gasp. Thomas was already gathering papers, talking about next steps, but James wasn't listening. He pulled Stephanie into his arms right there in the courtroom and let her shake apart. Victory tears this time, relief. The kind of emotional release that came from carrying unbearable weight and suddenly having it lifted. Outside the courthouse, autumn sunlight felt too bright, too cheerful for the gravity of what had just happened. Stephanie stood on the steps, taking deep breaths like she'd forgotten how breathing worked and was relearning in real time. "It's over." She said it like testing the words, seeing if they felt real. "It's actually over." "It's over," James confirmed. "I get to keep her. I get to keep my daughter." "You were always keeping her. We just made it official." Stephanie turned to face him fully. "I need to go get Ashley. She's with my assistant. I need to hold her. I need to tell her she's safe." "I'll drive you." They picked up Ashley from the office building where Stephanie's assistant had been watching her along with Emily, who'd insisted on coming. The girls were coloring when they walked in, both bent over the same paper, working together on what appeared to be a purple dragon. "Mama!" Ashley launched herself off the chair and into Stephanie's arms. "Did you win? Mr. James said you were fighting bad guys. Did you win?" "Yes, baby, we won. You're staying with Mama forever." "I know that. I told the bad guys you're the best mama." Ashley said it with complete certainty, like she'd personally participated in the trial. "They listened, right?" "They listened." Emily walked over more slowly, studying both adults' faces. "Everything's okay now." "Everything's okay." James pulled her into a hug. "Miss Stephanie and Ashley are staying. We're all staying together." "Good, because I finished the dragon and Ashley helped, and we need to show both of you." They spent the rest of the afternoon at James's house, the girls playing while the adults sat in the backyard, trying to process what felt like surviving a natural disaster. Stephanie kept checking her phone like expecting some reversal, some last-minute catastrophe. "It's really over. Christopher can't file again, can't contact you. It's done." "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something else to go wrong. Maybe this is what right looks like. Maybe we get to be happy now." Stephanie leaned against him, exhaustion finally catching up. "I lost my company, though. Lost my career. I don't know who I am if I'm not CEO of Vital Health. You're Ashley's mother, Emily's friend, my girlfriend, the woman who makes terrible pancakes but keeps trying anyway. James kissed her forehead. You're more than your job title ever was. I don't know how to just be a person. I've been building and fighting and surviving for so long. What do I do with peace? Learn to live in it. Let yourself rest. James pulled her closer. And when you're ready, build something new. On your terms this time, without fear driving every decision. That night, after the girls were asleep, after pizza delivery and celebratory ice cream and Emily's insistence on making thank you cards for the judge, James and Stephanie sat on his back porch watching stars emerge. Marry me. The words came out of James before he'd fully processed thinking them. Stephanie's head snapped up. What? Marry me. Not now, not tomorrow, but someday, when all this settles, when you figure out who you are without the CEO title, when we're ready. James took her hand. Marry me and let's build a family. You and me and Emily and Ashley, for real, not just dating, actual family. James, we've only been together 3 months. I buried my wife 3 years ago, raised a daughter alone through grief that should have destroyed me. I know what matters now, and you matter. Ashley matters. This matters. He squeezed her hand. I'm not asking you to say yes tonight. I'm asking you to think about it, to consider that maybe we get a happy ending after all the pain. Stephanie was crying again, but these tears looked different, softer. I've never let myself think about happy endings. Always seemed too dangerous, too much like hoping for something I didn't deserve. You deserve everything good that comes, every single bit of it. She kissed him then, tasting like salt and promise, and the beginning of something neither of them had planned, but both had needed. They sat under Colorado stars, making plans for a future that felt possible for the first time since Christopher's first email. 18 months later, James stood in his backyard watching Stephanie teach Ashley to ride a bike. The training wheels had come off last week, and the kid was wobbling but determined, her small face set with concentration that looked exactly like her mother's. Emily ran alongside, shouting encouragement, having appointed herself chief bike riding coach despite being only 7. The backyard looked different now. The garden Linda had planned but never finished had been completed, a joint project between James and Stephanie involving too many trips to the nursery and at least one fight about perennial placement. Flowers bloomed in careful rows, purple and white and gold. A small stone bench sat near the back fence with a plaque. For Linda and Melissa, who made us who we are. Dad, Emily yelled. Ashley did it. She rode all the way to the fence. Ashley had indeed made it to the fence, was now attempting a turn that nearly ended in a crash, but she recovered. The look of pure triumph on her face when she realized she'd stayed upright made everyone cheer. Stephanie jogged over to James, breathless and grinning. Did you see that? She's got it. She's actually riding. Just like Emily did. You're good at this teaching thing. I learned from watching you. Stephanie leaned against him. How was the meeting? Good. They want me to take the systems director position. More money, better hours. I could actually pick Emily up from school most days. You should take it. I will. James kissed her temple. How was yours? Stephanie had started a new company 6 months ago, smaller than Vital Health, but entirely hers. Healthcare software focused on pediatric care, built on everything she'd learned from both her careers. It was growing steadily, funded by her Vital Health severance and a few angel investors who believed in her vision. Great. We signed 2 new hospital contracts. If this keeps up, we'll need to hire more developers by next quarter. Told you you'd build something better. You tell me a lot of things. She smiled up at him. Most of them turn out right. The girls had moved on from bike riding to some elaborate game involving stuffed animals and a blanket fort. Emily was directing, while Ashley followed instructions with varying degrees of success. They looked like sisters, acted like sisters, were sisters in every way that mattered. I never thought I'd have this again. James watched his daughter, her purple jacket now too small, but she refused to give it up. After Linda died, I thought this was over. Family dinners and backyard games and someone to share it with. I never thought I'd have it at all. Stephanie's hand found his. Spent so long building companies, I forgot to build a life. And now? Now I have both. Thanks to a blind date I almost canceled, and a man who didn't run when things got complicated. Emily ran over, Ashley in tow. Can we go to the cemetery? We made drawings for Mama Linda and Mama Melissa. Want to show them? It had become a monthly ritual, all 4 of them visiting both graves, bringing flowers and drawings and stories about their lives. Emily had started it, insisting that both mamas needed to know about the family they'd helped create. They drove to the cemetery as the afternoon light turned golden. Emily had fresh purple flowers for Linda's grave. Ashley had white daisies for Melissa's. The graves sat side by side now, a request James and Stephanie had made to the cemetery after realizing how connected their stories had become. Emily placed her flowers carefully, then put her hand on Linda's headstone. Hi, Mama Linda. I'm 7 now. 7 3/4, actually. Dad says I'm getting so tall. Miss Stephanie made your spaghetti last night. It was really good, almost as good as you used to make. Ashley copied her sister, placing daisies on Melissa's grave with careful reverence. Hi, Mama Melissa. I'm 5. I learned to ride a bike today. Mama Stephanie helped. She's really nice. You would like her. Stephanie's breath caught. James wrapped an arm around her shoulders as Ashley continued talking to the grave like Melissa could hear, telling her about school and friends and the dragon Emily had helped her draw. Thank you, Stephanie whispered to the stone. Thank you for trusting me with her, for making me promise. I kept it. I'm keeping it every day. They stood together as the sun set, 2 families that had been broken, finding completeness in each other. Linda's grave and Melissa's grave side by side, watching over the people they'd loved enough to leave behind. James thought about deathbed promises and blind dates and all the impossible ways love found you when you weren't looking. Emily and Ashley ran ahead toward the car, already arguing about what to have for dinner, with the casual comfort of siblings who knew tomorrow would bring more arguments and more laughter and more ordinary beautiful life. Ready to go home? Stephanie asked. Home. Not her house or his house. Home. The place they'd built together, from grief and hope and stubborn refusal to let pain have the final word. Yeah, let's go home. They walked back to the car hand in hand while the Colorado evening settled around them, gentle and forgiving. Behind them, 2 graves stood witness to the family that had emerged from loss. Ahead, 2 girls waited in the car, already planning tomorrow's adventure. And between the past and future, James and Stephanie walked together, carrying the weight of everyone who'd loved them into becoming who they needed to be. Not a perfect family, but a real one, built on truth and choice, and the radical act of showing up day after day even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. That was enough, more than enough, everything.